Hello, welcome to the first episode of my podcast, the Life We're Given podcast. I'm so excited that you all are here. In episode one, it's really just a solo episode with me. I am your host. My name is Brandi Lewis. And in this episode, I really wanted to talk to you all about why I started this podcast, why it's named the name that it is. Really, just to give you a little bit of background on me and who I am. I am a new podcast host. That's the newest thing that I've added to my list of things that I've done. But other than that, I am a blood disorder awareness educator. I am very, very passionate about sharing my story, but sharing stories of other patients that have been diagnosed with different rare blood disorders as myself. So I'll tell a little bit about my story and how I've been on this long journey of now to this point where I've started a podcast. 2 weeks into sophomore year of college, I was not feeling well, did not think that there was anything wrong other than something that could be really just routine checkup, take some medicine, feel better, and go back to college. But that was really not my reality. And what became my reality was endless time in and out of the hospital, really trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And then, after being diagnosed with a rare blood disorder called aplastic anemia, we went on the road, me and my family, of trying to get me better, either treatment or get a cure for me. And so, along on that journey, I have met some really amazing people, people that I've been able to help, and people that have been able to help me as well. And so, out of this crazy health journey, really has just birthed this purpose for me of wanting to share my story, but also help other people understand what we go through as rare blood disorder patients and what that really truly looks like. I think a lot of the time that most people talk about health issues, they hear about chemo and they hear about cancer and what patients go through from that side. But what's not really talked about a lot is what we go through as a rare blood disorder patient, and how a lot of our treatments at times look really similar to cancer patients. We go through a lot of the ups and downs and the mental struggles just as cancer patients go through. So it's really not diminishing what cancer patients go through. It's really just shining another light on blood disorder patients and really just showing that we too struggle with a lot. I feel like it's funny to say this, but I feel like now I'm in a spot where I'm able to really be on this road now of sharing my story even more, but also be on this road of starting a podcast. But shockingly enough, I have battled health issues on and off for over 15 years, which is really crazy to say. I battled health issues longer than having a career. That's really funny to say, but it's really true. I've just been through so much, and it really started as a sophomore in college. And I had those questions of why me. I remember trying to get a diagnosis. I was going to doctor after doctor. I was getting bone marrow biopsy after bone marrow biopsy done, and no one could find out what was wrong with me. Thankfully, through those referrals, I was referred to a doctor. I call her my angel. She and I still keep in touch, but she was a doctor at Children's Hospital in Alabama. And thankfully, throughout that, that is where I found the doctor that specialized in blood disorders and was really able to diagnose me with what I had had. And so from there, being diagnosed with a rare blood disorder of aplastic anemia came with so much learning I had to do, so much learning that my parents had to do, my family, my sisters. And I feel like when you're in a state like that, where your health is on the line and you really don't know what day to day looks like, you learn pretty quickly. It's not like picking up a textbook and being in college where you're reading and studying and then having to take a test. You learn, and you learn because that is really the only thing that you really have at that moment in order to make it to the next day. And I will say that we learn very quickly about blood disorders, getting your counts checked. looking at what your hemoglobin looks like. What does that count really mean? Your red blood cell, your white blood cell, how they actually interact with each other in your body, what aplastic anemia really is. Aplastic anemia is where you're not forming enough red blood cells in your body. So for me, having that diagnosis and really not knowing where to turn, my family and I learned very quickly. And I was scared. I didn't know what life looked like. I didn't know how long I would live. That's how scared I was. Coming out of that journey now, you have conversations with your family and with your caregivers and your loved ones that were around during that time. And there are some things that my parents shielded me from, which I'm thankful for. One of those things that my parents shielded me from was knowing that there could have been a time where I would not be here on earth. And I'm so glad that I was shielded from that. I think it's important to go into any health journey with a positive mindset and being as positive as you can be, because you hear negative information day in and day out. And it's not anybody's fault that you're hearing that negative information. Your body's just not doing what it needs to do. And so I remember I would have so much hope when I first was going and getting blood transfusions 3 to 4 times a week. And I would go in, and every time they would check my blood counts to see what my platelets look like, what my red blood cells look like, just all of my blood counts. And I would have so much hope that one day they would just go back to normal magically. That was really where my mind was at that time. And so having that mindset, I left the doctor's office hopeless every time, which was not it's not the way to be. You don't want to leave a doctor's office 3 to 4 times a week hopeless. And I knew I had to do something different. I knew that that could not be the normal for me and that I had to find a way out of that. And from that came really me. I'm a Christian. And so for me, it was finding that faith in God and really honing in on reading my Bible more, talking to God more, asking him, okay, I'm going to stop asking why me in a frustrating way. I'm going to start asking why me, as in, okay, what am I going to do with this information in order to help somebody that may be in my position later on? So out of this, I ran a nonprofit for a couple of years as well called Brandi's Blessings. It was really my first step into really sharing my story, but also educating other people on what blood disorder patients go through. And that was really my main thing, was my mind and my eyes and my family's eyes were opened up to this new world of blood disorders. Day in and day out, sitting in those hospital lobbies, you start talking to the other families that you see there weekly as well. After you see each other for so long, you just muster up the strength to start conversations. And through that is where I found that there were other blood disorder patients, and that helped me feel less alone. But meeting them was great. You kind of become family in a way of rooting everybody on. And it came to the point where every week we would sit in the lobby waiting for my name to be called so I could go back in the back and get a transfusion or whatever it may be, see the doctor. And you would get updates, good or bad, from other patients. And throughout that, it was really cool to see what other people's journeys were. We rooted each other along. We praised each other for the good reports we would get that week. And we really stood together when there was a bad report. I met a young girl that I I don't think I'll ever forget her, but she actually was dealing with a bone cancer in her legs. And so she was in a wheelchair. And I would see her in the lobby all the time. And she always was just like staring at me. I one day just went up to her and wanted to ask her name and get to know her. And she wrote like on a sticky note, and I still have that sticky note to this day. She wrote down her name, her email address, and her phone number. And you can tell she just wanted to be friends so bad. She was around 12 years old. At the time of me being at Children's Hospital, I was the oldest patient there. I was 19, going on 20 years old. And meeting her was something that I don't think I'll ever forget, because not long after meeting her, she we saw her mom in the lobby a couple months after that. And I still tear up when I talk about this story. And it was 15 years ago. And me and my mom saw her mom in the lobby, but we didn't see her in the wheelchair. And she had told us that her daughter had passed away. And so hearing that story and knowing that, geez, I just met her a couple months ago, like, time is really not as on our side as we believe and what we think. And I always think of her, a young girl that really wasn't even able to really truly have and live out her life because of this illness and her having bone cancer. What then also made her have to be only in a wheelchair. So I heard those stories from time to time at Children's Hospital where I would meet a patient and not long after they weren't there anymore. And that is really where it pushed me to want to do this. I've been on this journey for 15 years now, and I really can't believe that I'm starting a podcast. I'm scared out of my mind to do this. I really am because I don't know where it's going to lead. I'm afraid of failure, of course. I'm a human being who wants to fail at anything, right? But I'm truly doing this because I really think this is just the next step in order to help anybody out there that needs it. There's so many times where we're so alone in life. And I've been there. You just feel like you're the only person that's going through this and you don't know anybody else that is. Those times where it's hard to go to work and you're having to muster up the strength to put a smile on your face. Like everything is just normal and grand and happy. When you have people sitting at a children's hospital, kids there that aren't able to fully live a life or a life that their parents thought that they would have. That little girl's story sticks with me so much because whenever I would see her in the lobby, it was like she would look at me like she had so much admiration for who I was. She was a Black young girl as well, and I could tell that it was like, that's what I want. Really, this podcast is just really for anybody to feel seen. I've already had some amazing interviews with amazing people that have great stories to tell, and their journeys have made them look at life so much differently. Time is so valuable, and I don't think we really truly understand how valuable it is until we're in the spot of it may be taken away, or maybe you're dealing with grief of a divorce, grief of losing a family member, um, motherhood troubles. It's motherhood is not easy. And seeing that in the lives of my friends and family, there's a lot of ups and downs there that we don't talk about. I'm not a mom myself, but I do think that that's something that it's such a rewarding thing to be a mom, but it's not really talked about what you really go through. And I think there are so many times as women in relationships, we don't really always talk about what we're going through. So this podcast is for anybody out there that needs hope. Maybe you're sitting in the hospital right now and you are listening to this podcast to bring you hope. The reason that I named it The Life We're Given is because we are only given one life here on earth. And in this life, I feel like you should do whatever it is that you want to do in order to feel like when you leave this earth, you've done everything you've wanted to do. You're leaving with no regrets. This podcast is really just for anybody out there to really not feel like they're struggling with life, but to really understand how to get over those humps and really just to feel less alone. Through these stories that you'll hear stories from other people that have been in places that you've been, or maybe in places that you may be in one day. But I hope through their stories, you find the strength to keep moving on. And maybe that just means moving on to the next day. Whatever that is, I hope you find the strength to do it. So a little bit about my story. Let's go back to my story after I've cried a little bit. So I think I ended off with I was diagnosed at Children's Hospital in Alabama with aplastic anemia. My doctor that I called or and still call my angel, Dr. Goodwin. It's funny because she actually became the doctor at that hospital 3 months before I met her. And so I call it a God moment. She is the only doctor that was able to diagnose me at the time with aplastic anemia. So thankful for that because it led me to now the road of healing and treatment options and what that looked like. I would go on to go in the hospital for a full week. 5 days out of that week, I would get this treatment called ATG. It's a immunosuppressive drug. And that would start my treatment journey. From there, I would get out of the hospital and I was on medicine for a full year after that. So I had to take medical leave from college. I didn't know what the next year would look like. All I knew is I can only focus on day to day. Thankfully, through that year, I went in remission. My counts went back to normal. And I said, okay, I'm not going to let fear stop me. I'm going to go back to college. I went to college 2 hours away from my home. And I had moved back home during that time of getting well. And I said, I'm not going to let this stop me. So I went back to school and I entered my pageant and I made history at my university and became the first Black to be known as Miss University of North Alabama. So through that year of being named Miss UNA, I took it upon myself of saying, okay, this is going to be my platform now. You get a platform whenever you're a reigning pageant winner. And so my platform was called A Chance to Dream. And so from there, I went all over, spoke to so many people, any age range, and really told my story and how I had all these dreams and goals in life. And during that year of being secluded, having to be isolated because I couldn't get sick, I wrote down dreams and goals because I said, I'm not going to let this illness stop me. I've never wanted my illness to be a crutch or an excuse why I can't do anything in life. And so I went around mainly Florence, Alabama, Muscle Shoals area, other places also in Alabama. I was able to tell my story. Thankfully, I would go on to graduate college, which was a huge blessing, honor, a big deal in my family. Seeing from where I had come to now, we see her on her college graduation. It was a really big moment in my family. And after graduating, I would go to DC for a summer and intern for a congressman. I would come back home, start working, and in between this time, I was getting 6-month checkups. Every 6 months, I would go into my doctor and we would look at my blood counts, make sure they were normal. Well, after coming back home, checkup, and all of my counts were low again. And I found out that I was now out of remission and diagnosed again with aplastic anemia. My doctor at the time was an oncologist. I was her only hematology patient. And so she told me I've been doing some research and I understand that aplastic anemia patients are sometimes diagnosed with PNH as well. I want to test you. Her words were, I don't expect the test to be positive, but I want to go ahead and rule it out. And I'll call you with the results. Get a phone call, found out that I was not only diagnosed with aplastic anemia the second time around, but I was also diagnosed with PNH, which stands for paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. Like I said earlier, where aplastic anemia, I wasn't forming enough red blood cells. But now with PNH, the red blood cells that I was forming were attacking each other and bursting in my system, which meant that my urine was darker because now I have blood in my urine, which is a really big symptom of PNH. So now being diagnosed with two rare blood disorders, I was not in a good state. I found out on a Friday, and I remember having to call my parents and tell them, here we go again for a second time. It was so hard because when you deal with health issues, it's not your fault, but you feel like I have to put this on somebody else's load again. It's not a really good feeling. So after calling my parents and telling them, I've been diagnosed with 2 rare blood disorders. We went on the road to figuring both of them out, how they interacted with each other. I ended up finding a specialist. On this podcast, we'll talk a lot about, finding the right doctor for you, what that looks like. I did a lot of second opinions, found my doctor who helped me get back to where I am now. I was given treatment again from there, and thankfully, I am in a very healthy place. But the second time around, I would say it took me longer than a year to get back to my healthy state again. But ever since then, I've been really well, and I'm thankful for where I am in my journey just because now I'm able to do so much for so many people. I hope that helps you learn a little bit about me and what's to come on this podcast. I really hope it really helps you or anybody out there that may be just dealing with everyday life struggles. Life is not easy. And for someone that has been battling health issues since 19, 20 years old, I can definitely tell you life has not been easy. But I have learned so much through my journey. And I have learned what it really means to face fear. I have learned what it really means to face death in its face, how to have hope when the days are beyond hopeless. I am so thankful for where I am in my life. I'm so thankful for the people that I've met in my life. And on this podcast, you'll meet a lot of the people that I've met in my life along on my journey, from giving TEDx talk to meeting people over the internet that have been diagnosed with similar illnesses as myself and where they are on their journey now. How we've become like a little cute community of helping each other and being there for each other. People that I've met in college along in my journey as well. So you will meet a lot of people and hear a lot of amazing stories from every areas of life, not just health. I hope this podcast touches you. I do. I hope that it touches anybody out there that truly just needs hope, that needs to feel seen and to feel less alone. Life is hard, but I do believe that when you do life with other people, it helps. It helps to hear the stories of people's struggles and what they've been through. Thank you so much for listening to this first episode. I'm really excited. It's kind of weird to record an episode when it's just you talking to a camera. So this is very new for me. I am definitely getting used to it all, but thank you for being along with me on this journey now of having a podcast. If you know anybody out there that has a story to tell, I would love to talk to them more. Please email me at hello@brandilewis.com. That's HELLO at Brandi. That's Brandi with an I, BRANDILEWIS.com. I would love to talk to them or to you if you have an amazing story that you want to help other people out there. We're all in this world together, and so it helps to do it together sometimes. So thank you so much, and yeah, let's get into it. It's gonna be a good podcast, a good season number 1. Let's go. Thank you.